Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Cordina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 463 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, the main man himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. That is the truth, my friend. Let's dive straight into the review part of the show. I'm anticipating another extremely short show, just like last week. I think last week's show was only about half an hour. So, yeah, it's going to be short again. We're going to dive straight into that review part. There's really nothing to mention, to be honest with you. Nothing was on TV last week. But let's start last Friday, August the 23rd, at the Club Social y Deportivo El Porvenir in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Anytime I get a chance to reel off that accent, I take it with both hands. Jeremias Nicolas Ponce, some might remember him, the Argentine, flying his way up the rankings. Stepped in there with Subriel Matias and lost his O. Well, he's now 32-1. It was a unanimous decision win for him over 10 rounds on Friday against Alexis Torres, now 12-8 with a draw. Torres down in the first round, but managed to survive the 10. So credit to Torres there, and a nice win there for Jeremias Ponce. Moving now to the final card to mention. It went down at the Met Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, USA. Again, haven't seen the fight at all, but returned to the ring for Bryant Jennings, who was out the ring for, I think it was 5 or 6 years. I think it was 5 or 6 years. He returned to the ring, like I say, friend of the show, now 25-4 in his 29th pro fight. A unanimous decision over 8 rounds against Joel Caudle, who's now 9-9 with 2 draws. All the best there to B.Y. Jennings. Like I said, it was going to be short. It was always going to be short. That brings the review part to a close. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the world-ranked super-featherweight contender and my favourite fighter in the whole world. It is, of course, Mr. Archie Sharp. Archie, welcome back on the show.
Thanks for having me on, mate. I hope all is well.
Always is well when speaking with you, my friend. So we last spoke back in June, not too long ago. At the time, you were getting ready to fight Ryan Garner. I was sat ringside at the O2 for the fight. Talk me through the fight. Let's start there. You started the fight well, I thought.
Yeah, so we started the fight well, first round or two, and then obviously we picked up unfortunate cut in the second, and I think it was in the second, towards the end of the second, and from there it just kind of got worse. And I just kind of say, like, my game plan went out the window. Everything just kind of went from there, and got myself into a bit of an egotistic sort of fight where once I knew I couldn't get hurt with his punching power or anything like that, I just kind of stood still and started trading up.
And Archie, obviously the fight before that, where we see you get dropped twice in the first round, I think some people thought, oh, that's the first time Archie's properly been hit. Maybe, maybe his chin isn't so great. But obviously you'd have been found out against Garner. You took his shots really well. You actually rocked him, I felt, a couple of times. Do you think you answered the question there?
Yeah, no, I definitely answered the question. And look, no matter who you are, especially for someone like myself who's been in the game started when I was 7 years old, never touched the canvas in sparring fights or whatever, and first time happening, you do ask yourself a question. And then I got in there with Ryan, and like I say, I think with that one in May, it was just a matter of fact of me just walking in there complacent, and it just got caught cold. There was no answer for that. But I feel like things happen for a reason, and since then I haven't changed anything in regards with the training, my personal life or anything. So I felt like I needed this loss to kind of really liven myself up and make the changes that are well needed. So I say it's not ideal for myself picking that loss up to Ryan, but I do generally believe that it was myself who won that fight for Ryan, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like Ryan was too good for me or Ryan had the ability and he was a better fighter. I just believe that I thought the wrong game plan down to myself, where allowing emotions to take over instead of just sticking to what I need to do to win.
And obviously you talk about deviating from the initial game plan. You mentioned the cut. You've been cut before. Obviously you've been knocked down in the past, got up and won. What was it that actually made you change? Because like I say, you've been cut before and still won fights. Yeah, of course. I don't think it's, like I say, it's not to do so much with the cut. That's not an excuse. I think with the cut, it makes things more messier. And obviously Ryan's sort of start was on your chest from the get-go. But like with myself, Joe, there's been a lot of things outside of boxing. We've been a bit erratic with personal life, running a company. Obviously I've got 4 kids indoors. So I didn't get away for camp. I stayed at home. So I feel like everything just it was very erratic. And what that does is shows in my performance now how erratic that things have been outside of life. Now it's come into my boxing. And I think that's what it boils down to, is just not sticking to the game plan because I was a bit too erratic, if you know what I mean. Yeah, no, I understand. And again, sat ringside, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I still thought that you just nicked it. I still need to watch it back on TV, which I must do. I've watched back the first round. You definitely won the first round. I haven't seen anything after that point on the TV. Have you watched it back and scored it? Yeah, I did watch it back. It took a couple of weeks just finally sit down and come to realization with it all and sit back and watch it. But yeah, look, I'm not saying that I was robbed. I'm not saying that I was cheated out of a draw, because me watching it, depends on what you're scoring. You know, I did invest a lot into the body, and even with the commentary, like when I was landing body shots, there wasn't no like, oh, well done, commenting with the body shots that was landing. You know, like if I landed 2 body shots and if I got caught with a right hand, the only thing that was getting mentioned was the right hand. Nothing. There was no. So and the stats kind of say it to an extent, because it says that I outlanded him more. That's what the is it the AI stats, the things they've got now? Oh, you're putting me on the spot. I'm not too sure. So basically, there's new AI stats that show how many shots were thrown, who landed the most, and all that stuff. So, and on the stats, it said that I landed the most scoring shots. So I think it was like 10 punches different. So to me, if you're looking at that, you say, well, Archie landed more and got hit less. But obviously, when you watch the fight, it kind of, I think a lot of it was still with the body shots. I was landing a lot of body shots, and I don't think they was being scored. He was landing probably more headshots. I think that's what kind of they based it on. So that I say draw, it could have been, but I won't argue 6 for him, you know. And my last question on the fight, because obviously it's behind us now, but how good do you think Garner can become? Well, I think that's him at his best, and that's why I'm not so disappointed with what's going on. I didn't get out of the ring and think that I wasn't good enough, I'm not good enough, or I haven't got another game plan. I knew that was what Ryan was going to do, and what lost me the fight was me holding my feet. Ryan's a good kid, and I wish him all the best. Hopefully we get the rematch straight away, but whether they take it or not, I'm not too sure. Look, how good he's going to be, I don't know. Because if you look at the other fighters, i.e. Zelfa Barrett won't be standing still like that, you know. If he gets to his boxing, and that's how I should have done. No, he boxed Jordan Gill, but obviously come back a little bit more, because I do think Gill was beating Barrett, to be fair, until we got stopped. But I don't know. It's only a question that you have to just see with time, I suppose, with fights. But I do feel like that was the best Ryan Garner, and that was probably like a 60% Archie Sharp, you know. No, fair enough. That's honest. What have you been up to since? Obviously, you said you had just had too much going on in your life. I know that obviously you opened up a business. I know the house well. I've been in it myself. Thankfully, I don't think there was 4 kids back then when I was in it. But it's still hectic, mate. My life's still hectic. But you know what it is? I thought at the end of the day, it was hectic whilst I was through camp. So I might as well
do what I need to do now, carry on being hectic, getting things sorted, and once I go into next camp, which will hopefully be soon, I'll be out again before the end of the year. At least with now, I can kind of finalise a load of things, get my head down, sort the training side of things out that needed to be sorted, i.e. with trainers. There's a lot of inputs, you know. You've got Ryan, you've got Roy, you've got Ian, Richard, Lee Wilkins had a bit involvement with the training as well, which was all brilliant. Like, I'm not saying anyone's was better than others. Like, all their inputs was perfect. But you know what they say about chefs, you know, too many chefs and things like that. So I think I just need to kind of simplify things and go back to what I know, how I like to box, and what I know works well for me, you know.
No, definitely. Couldn't agree more. I've seen you post a lot of training videos since this fight, more than usual, actually. Yeah. You seem like you're training really hard.
Well, funny enough, mate, like I say, things happen for a reason. Like, I've got a new buzz about me now, you know, like that whole 25-0, not losing. Bear with me 2 seconds. You got sirens coming past, so bear with me 2 seconds. They're
not going to take you in the back of that van.
No, it's all good. Training, like I say, training's been very good, mate. Like, I've gone back to some really old school stuff that I used to do, and there's a new buzz about me. That whole 20, like I say, yes, it's nice to keep, and no one wants to have a defeat on their record 100%, but that's out the window now, you know. That's been and gone. Like, that don't matter now. That's done. That's one pressure alone. When you've got that, everyone's comments on your record, and now that's been and gone. It feels like a weight off my shoulder, if you like, and now I'm just excited to get back in the ring and be in the biggest fights as possible, and then I'll showcase my skills, you know.
And talking about being back in the ring, obviously we had Albert Bell on last week's podcast. You and him were linked together for a good while. It looked like the fight would happen. Despite taking that loss, he still shows an interest in the fight. I'm wondering what other options are actually on the table right now. Surely that's got to be, you know, I know that obviously the numbers have all got to make sense, but, you know, just looking at things, that has to be one of the best opportunities that there is coming off a loss for you.
Yeah, there's loads of fights there, you know, like people are all, surprisingly, Joe, there's a lot of fights there, you know. Look at Joe Cordina. Joe Cordina got stopped, and next minute he's fighting Cacace Stevenson, you know, like, it ain't the old end now. Like, I just want to be in the big fights. Regardless of the outcome, it was still a good fight for people to watch. It was a very entertaining, me and Ryan. We both put it on the line. Do you know what I mean? There was blood. It was all sorts going on. So it was a good fight, a good entertaining fight for people, and that's what the boxing's about, you know. So I'm never rarely in any boring fights. So I reckon there's a load of options there. We're in talks, and yeah, like I say, I've got more options now than I did when I was unbeaten on a winning streak.
And something I want you to clear up as well, because I thought that when you came to York Hall in the Lambo and all that, I thought you'd sign back with Frank. But then when you did the face-off thing with Ryan Garner, which was really interesting, I thought you said that he was with Frank and you won. Are you with Frank or not?
No, so I was on a 2-fight deal with Frank, with the May show and then the Ryan Garner fight.
Okay.
So now, yeah, we just negotiate, see what other options there are. Look, I've had a lot of history with Frank, you know, so I'm sure there's a possibility there of us doing other things. Like I said, we're in talks with spoken to Frank, spoken to a few people. So yeah, like I say, I'm not actually signed to one person at the minute. That was a 2-fight deal, and yeah, we'll see what other options are about.
It was
but
great as well
the good thing is, Joe, there are options. You know, that's the good beauty of it. We're in a good position. We're in a good place. Like, regardless of whoever I fight, everyone knows I'm always going to be in an entertaining fight. So that's what people want.
And you haven't lost your top 15 ranking as well, which I had a sneaky suspicion might happen. It's good that you're still in the top 10 even. It was great as well that Usyk was sat ringside for your entire fight. I saw him paying close attention. That was great. My final 2 questions, Archie. You mentioned it a little bit. Joe Cordina, Cacace Stevenson, October 12th in Saudi Arabia. How do you see that one going? Cordina up at lightweight.
Yeah, I think it's a great fight. If we just had to say who I think's going to win at the end of it, look, I'm going to go with... I'm going to back Cacace. Like, that's no disrespect to Joe, obviously. Shakur is a great fighter, so is Joe. But I just feel like Shakur might be that little bit more cuter. However, I think this will be the hardest fight Shakur has been in as a pro, and he will need to answer a lot of. There'll be questions that need to be answered that he hasn't come across yet. But let me tell you something: Joe Cordina at 135 will be a strong operator. I think the 130 just took too much out of him, and yeah, I'm excited for the fight. And then as a boxing fan, I'm looking forward to watching it.
And lastly, Anthony Cacace against Josh Warrington in 3 weeks' time. Interesting.
Yes, I think that's another good fight as well. I must say, I do feel like with Cacace and Warrington, I think Warrington's going to be the same, just come forward all the time. And I think Cacace wins. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to favour Cacace for that. But same again, another great fight for boxing, very interesting fight. But we all know Warrington's going to be in there, and pushing Cacace, because it will be interesting. If Cacace don't hurt him early doors, how's Cacace going to be at the last half of the fight? Because he's massive for the weight as well. I'm surprised he's still making 130, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's a really interesting factor. Those last, the back end of the fight will be interesting. We know that Josh will be there. Right, closing words, Archie. If you just want to wrap it up with a message to our listeners before we let you go, I appreciate your time.
Just thanks for having me on, and I'm always grateful for everyone tuning in and supporting and being part of the journey. So yeah, looking forward to being back out, and no doubt I'll be back in a good fight for everyone. And as always, I just give it my best and keep going, So, yeah, appreciate you all.
That's all you can do, my friend. Listen, Archie, as always, the pleasure's mine. Thanks for your time. We'll keep our eyes peeled for a next fight announcement, and we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Joe. God bless you, mate.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. We're going to start here with the news. Just one piece of news to mention. It's just a minor piece of news, but I'm happy about this piece of news, to be honest with you. Sam Gilly, friend of the show, has linked up with Queensbury. So he's signed a deal there with Frank Warren, a promotional agreement. I think Gilly has been getting better and better with every fight, in all honesty, since suffering a loss a few fights ago to Danny Ball. And I'm happy for him. He's coming off a brilliant win last time. I think it was his last fight. That fight at York Hall, that fight of the year contender against Louis Green. So yeah, I'm really, really happy for him. And I just think it's about time, really, that a big promoter has snapped him up. So happy for him. Friend of the show, top man as well, Sam Gilly. So that's good news this week. That's it though for the news. Like I say, moving on now to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here with a card that goes down tomorrow in a place in Russia called Cherepovets. Over here, return to the ring for Alexei Papin, who seems like he's been extremely inactive recently. That one loss on his record, he's 17-1. That one loss was to Martin Bacoli's brother. I always forget the guy's name. It's just one of them names. It always escapes me. Ilunga Makabu. So yeah, he lost to Ilunga Makabu, I think, on a split decision or majority decision in a fight where, to be honest, he might have done enough. And ever since then, he's just lost momentum. He's been boxing like once a year, I think in 2020, 2021. I think he might have boxed twice in 2022, then once in 2023. So he's been quite inactive, and he's back here. I think this will be the third fight he's had this year, if I'm not mistaken. Again, this is all off the top of my head, I swear to God. So I'm pretty sure he's back a little bit more active now, which is a good thing. He gets in with Felix Valera, who's 23-5. It's over 12 rounds there at cruiserweight. Moving now, and I'm going to come to you here, Eddie, because we're going to the Swamlum Night Bazaar. Now, it's not somewhere that you've been, but it's in Bangkok. It's in Thailand. But over here, more importantly, having his 64th pro fight, 56-6 with a draw, Wisaksel Wangek, a.k.a. Sarisiket Sorung Vasai, a.k.a. Eddie,
The Rat Eaters.
There we go, right on cue. Perfect delivery. Well, anyway, the Rat Eater, the rodent muncher. He's back, like I say, having his 64th fight. He steps in with 1-1 Wutachai Urachai. So that sounds like a funny name in itself, but yeah, a huge mismatch, just like Rung Vasai seems to keep doing recently. I don't know what the game plan is, but no one's talking about it. He's getting passes for boxing like 1-on-1 guys and like, guys with loads of losses. Like, I don't understand it. And then he just comes back in a massive world title fight. So I don't know what he's trying to do at the moment in his career. Maybe he's trying to get to 70 fights. I don't know. But yeah, we've got to mention him as always. Love talking about him. Moving now to, I guess, the main card of the weekend, really. It's really the only card, to be honest with you, that's going to be televised, as far as I'm aware. It's going to be live on DAZN. We've got Chev Clark 9-0 in a 10-rounder here at Cruiserweight against Tabor Apochi, who's 2-2. This one, by the way, at the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California, USA. Eddie Hearn show. We've also got Adelaida Ruiz 16-0 with a draw for the WBC interim super flyweight world title over 10 rounds against Ginny Fuch, who is 3-0. I think that's how her surname is pronounced. I'm not entirely sure. And also the main event, Diego Pacheco 21-0, stepping in with Maciel Sulecki, who's 32-2. A rugged kind of contender, Sulecki, the Polishman. I remember him giving a good fight to, I think it was it Danny Jacobs? I think he boxed Danny Jacobs. Again, this is all off the top of my head. I remember him boxing Gabe Rosado as well. So yeah, Sulecki, a few years ago was kind of, a fringe kind of level guy. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think, it's been a few years, probably just past his best now. But anyway, Diego Pacheco, who is at the moment looking $1 million, steps in there, and you'd expect him to stop Sulecki, in all honesty. 1-5 for the stoppage for Pacheco. That's how sure they are that's going to happen. It's for the WBC USA and WBO International super middleweight titles. Also on Saturday night as well, by the way. This one should get a mention just because it's a bit circus-like, and I think because we're not really spoiled for choice at the moment in boxing. We're kind of getting given what we're given without a choice in the last week or so. We are going to mention this one because, like I say, it's a little bit circus-like. But return to the ring after 2 years and 3 months out of it, Victor Ortiz. He is 33-7 with 3 draws. He steps in with Nestor Hernandez, who's 22-12 with a draw. All the best there to Victor Ortiz. And finally, this one goes down. It's definitely the best card of the week, of course. It goes down on Tuesday, so by the time we record the show next week, it would have already took place. But yeah, it goes down at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo, Japan. It's going to be live, I'm sure, on ESPN and on Sky Sports. Cannot miss it. Let's start with the undercard. Few decent fights. We've got Jin Sasaki, who is 17-1 with a draw, stepping in with Camille Bala, who's 15-1-1. That one for the Oriental and Pacific Boxing Federation welterweight title, and also the WBO Asia Pacific welterweight title. I've heard a hell of a lot about Jin Sasaki, so I'm looking forward to watching him. I haven't actually seen him live, but I've heard he's a very good, talented fighter. Also on the card as well, fresh off, I think it was probably the last time he boxed, his upset win, Ishmael Barroso, 25-4 with 2 draws. Pretty sure he hasn't boxed since back in December, I want to say it was, when he stopped O'Hara Davies in a round. He's back in a 12-rounder against the undefeated Andy Hiraoka, who is 23-0. All the best there to the old man, Ishmael Barroso, who does look about 20 years older than what he actually is, even though he's old anyway. Also on the card as well, Yoshiki Takai, 9-0, stepping in with the heavy-handed Daigo Higa, 21-2 with a draw. Again, Daigo Higa probably not what he once was anymore, but you definitely can't count him out. I mean, it's always worth backing him for a knockout win, I tell you what, because he can certainly bang if nothing else. But it's for the WBO Bantamweight World title, probably a last chance saloon really for Higa. And of course the main event, Naoya Inoue, 27-0, defending his IBF, WBC and WBO Super Bantamweight World titles against TJ Doheny of Ireland, who's 26-4. TJ Doheny, it's I was going to say it's not the kind of opponent that we want to see Inoue in with, but at the same time, I think they're running out of options, and I think commercially it's probably a good move because Doheny picked up his world title back in 2018 in Tokyo. So, he went out there and beat a Japanese fighter, become world champion, and then obviously went on a little bit of a kind of world tour. Obviously it wound up losing his belt and the rest of it when he unified against Danny Roman, and it looked like his days were numbered when he lost to Roman and then Baluta, that's Ayanut Baluta, and obviously lost to Michael Conlan, which looking back now seems hard to actually imagine happening. But anyway, it looked like he was kind of down and out, but he has come back with a string of wins, and they've all been in Tokyo. He's coming off 3 wins in a row in Tokyo, all by knockout, and he's been the underdog, if I'm not mistaken, in all 3 of them. So I don't know what that says, Eddie, but Naoya Inoue has kind of picked a good guy commercially, I think. Like I say, the Japanese fight fans know TJ Doheny, won his world title out there, and he's coming off 3 upset knockout wins, all in Tokyo, Japan, and the fight's going down in Tokyo, Japan. So he's running out of opponents, Inoue, but this is probably a good move.
Yeah, agreed. You got to do something. He's got to start looking at BoxRec to find some other high level opponents that are close to his weight. I mean, he's dispatching these guys like crazy, like hotcakes. So I mean, it's really difficult, and it's gonna get harder to find guys until he starts to move up. And I think that's when things are gonna get a little hairy for him, because now you have to fight against weight and size and guys being naturally bigger. He's already kind of dealt with that a little bit coming from what the weights he were before, but he was big enough to kind of deal with, Bantam and Super Bantam and all of that. But now moving up to feather and then talking about possibly, if possible, to 130, which is junior light, that becomes a little bit, now you're starting to have conversations that you got to see. It's like what Lomachenko kind of faced too, because early on at featherweight, he was killing. You know what I mean? It was impossible. He was the right size for the weight. He was actually maybe even a little big, I guess you could say. But now, he moved up, and then he started facing more, difficulties with size and guys just being actually bigger and bigger punchers, and being able to deal with his slickness just because of that. So, that is something. And then we're going to have to see what Inoue is, if his power carries as he moves up, if that's a thing he decides to do later on, which I think he will, because he's chasing greatness, and that's just what it looks like to me. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's good commercially. It's good. It's, it's something that happened. The guy won the titles over there, so it kind of gives them, that little bit of a rooting interest against him, I guess, makes it interesting. I don't know. But yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens. And like you said, the guy has 3 upset knockout wins. For him to just take care of this guy in Japan, yeah. This makes a lot of sense now. Like you said, commercially, business, whatever you want to say, definitely makes sense. So yeah, but I guess now something to look forward to. There's not a lot of boxing on this weekend, and especially not televised. So yeah, this is something we can focus on and see. And shit, you never know, anything can happen in a boxing ring. So yeah, let's pay attention to what happens, and hopefully everything goes as planned.
Absolutely. TJ Doheny obviously never been stopped in his 4 losses. He's got 20 knockout wins from his 26 wins as well. So he certainly can punch. You've only got to look at his last 3 fights, as we've mentioned. I don't think he's going to be intimidated in that ring at all. I think they actually quite like him over there. I don't think he's going to be the home favourite, of course, on Tuesday. But he's a durable guy. He's a southpaw, very experienced. I think that we're going to see some rounds here. I don't think Naoya's going to go in there and just spark him out within a couple of rounds like some people are expecting. I think we are going to see some rounds here, particularly because Inoue, off the top of my mind at least, has been kind of going quite late in his last few fights. He got the win in the 6th round against Luis Neri, but went 10 with Marlon Tapales, went 8 with Stephen Fulton, went 11 with Paul Butler. So yeah, we might see some rounds. It's going to be interesting. I really think so. So yeah, good card there in Japan from top to bottom, and the main event, well, you just can't miss it. But anyway, like I say, it's been a nice short show. That brings the preview part to a close. In part 1, we did the review part, then we welcomed our special guest. In part 2, we did the news. We've just wrapped up the preview part there. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 463 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive shout out to this week's special guest, the Super-Featherweight contender himself, Mr. Archie Sharp. The biggest thanks of all goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That is about everything now from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe. We'll see you all again, same time next week.